Hello everyone, in this occasion I'd like to continue the previous presentation. We move on to chapter 4 that will be discussed about the UNESCO CFT version 3. The ICT CFT consists of 18 competencies organized according to the six aspects of teachers' professional practice over 3 levels of teachers' pedagogical use of ICT. There are 6 aspects of teachers' professional practice, which is understanding ICT in education policy, curriculum and assessment, pedagogy, application of digital skills, organization and administration, and the last one is teacher professional learning. It can be said that teachers who have competencies to use ICT in their professional practice will be able to guide the students' ICT competencies effectively. Now we move on to the successive stages. There are 3 successive stages of a teacher's development in making pedagogical use of ICT. The first level is knowledge acquisition, the second level is knowledge deepening, and the last level is knowledge creation. The first level that is going to be discussed will be knowledge acquisition. This level is where teachers acquire knowledge about using technology and basic ICT competencies. It demands that teachers be aware of the potential benefits of ICT in the classroom and within national priorities and be able to manage and organize the school's ICT investment and use technology for lifelong learning and further professional development. Teachers who have mastered the competencies in the knowledge acquisition level can first articulate how their classroom practices correspond to and support institutional and or national policy, analyze curriculum standards, and identify how ICT can be used pedagogically to support attainment of the standards. Teachers can make appropriate ICT choices to support specific teaching and learning methodologies. Teacher can identify the function of hardware components and common productivity software applications and be able to use them. The next one is organize the physical environment to ensure the technology supports different learning methodologies in an inclusive manner. And the last one is use ICT to support their professional development. The following goals, objectives, and example activities provide clarity as to what is entailed with each competency. The aim of this level is to provide a basic introduction to how ICT can be used to positively impact on all 6 aspects of a teacher's work. Here are the tables. There are curricular goals for teacher training, teacher competency, the objectives, and the example activities. I'll going to discuss about the objectives and the examples because the curricular goals for teacher training and teacher competency is almost the same with the 6 teacher competencies before. So the first aspect, the teacher should be able to identify how policy implementation is shaping classroom practice by discussing institutional and or national policies and common classroom practices and identify those practices that support policy. Teachers also need to identify and analyze their own classroom practices in terms of how their teaching practices contribute to policy implementation. The 1B, the teacher should be able to identify the principles of using ICT in education in a safe and accessible manner by investigating the benefits and also drawbacks of using ICT in education, identifying appropriate ICT use to support and enhance their productivity teaching methods, class administration, and continuing professional developments. Now we move on to the second aspect, which is curriculum and assessment. In this aspect, the teacher should be able to match specific curriculum standards to a particular software packages and computer applications and describe how these standards are supported by these applications. The activities that should be done by the teachers is to identify specific curriculum standards and identify software packages and so on. And the second point is the teacher should be able to search for and identify OER to support curriculum standards. The teacher should search for OER using both specialized and common search engines and select open resources to teach specific curriculum standards. The next point is the teacher should be able to select ICT to support assessment strategies. The teacher should identify how ICT can support different ways to assess students, such as portfolios, peer assessment, formative assessment, and journal reflections. Teachers are introduced to dedicated assessment tools. Now we move on to the third aspect, which is pedagogy. In this aspect, the teacher should, there are 3 points. There are 3 points of objectives. The first point is the teacher should be able to choose appropriate ICT solutions in teaching to support students' acquisition of subject knowledge by describing how the use of ICT can support and supplement existing classroom teaching. Teachers need to investigate how ICT can ensure the engagement of students of different abilities, ages, genders, and sociocultural and linguistic background over higher levels of productivity and provide greater professionalism to their teaching. The second point is the teacher should be able to devise lesson plans that incorporate ICT supported activities to support students' acquisition of subject knowledge. By share and comment on lesson plans that incorporate different roles for ICT. Lesson plans might foresee ICT providing tutorials and drill and practice exercises or providing access to a collection of accessible multilingual digital resources to be manipulated and interpreted. The last point of this aspect is the teacher should be able to use presentation software and digital resources to support instruction. By demonstrating the use of presentation software and incorporate additional inclusive and accessible digital media such as audio, video animations, and virtual and or augmented reality so to supplement subject content in an interesting and engaging way. We move on to the fourth aspect, which is application of digital skills. There are 14 objectives in this aspect, which is the first one is teachers should be able to create simple presentation by discussing the purpose of presentation software for education and so on. The teacher should be able to create simple graphics by demonstrating proficiency by creating a graphic that can be used as a teaching aid. The teacher should be able to navigate the internet by discussing the purpose and structure of the internet and the World Wide Web. The teacher should be able to understand the basic principles of cyber safety, security, and media and information literacy by demonstrating knowledge of good practices of cybersecurity and media and information literacy. The next one is this teacher should be able to use a search engine to find curriculum resources by demonstrating the use of search engine using simple keyword searches to find subject-related resources. The 8th point is the teacher needs to create an email account and use it in their daily activities by creating and using an email account to send a reply to email, attach digital documents to email messages, and so on. The next objective is the teacher should be able to identify and use drill and practice software to support learning. by analyzing the effectiveness of tutorial and drill and practice packages in supporting the acquisition of specific subject matter knowledge. Next one is teachers should be able to identify and evaluate educational software and web resources and match them to curriculum standards and students' needs. By searching the internet to identify appropriate digital resources and tools for specified learning objectives or standards, and analyze these packages for accuracy and curriculum alignment. The 11 objectives that the teacher should be able to use record keeping software to keep student records by discussing the purposes and advantages of a digital record keeping system and demonstrate the use of such a system to record, for example, marks, attendance, and merit points. The next objectives that the teacher should be able to use communication and collaboration technologies, including mobile technologies, by discussing the purposes and advantages of various communication and collaboration technologies. The next one is the teacher should be able to use social networks to communicate with the wider learning community by using the strategize and use social networking apps to incorporate teachers, students, parents, and other interested parties into a wide support group. The last one is the teacher should be able to troubleshoot ICT problems when technology fails to ensure minimal disruptions to lessons. By diagnosing common ICT problems such as lack of power, dropped connectivity, and failed logins, and perform minor maintenance such as setting up antivirus utilities. The fifth aspect, which is organization and administration. In this aspect, the teacher should be able to organize students and ICT in a learning environment to support teaching and learning by coordinating student learning where each student has access to a computer or device and in context where students must share computers. The next objectives will be support small groups and individuals, including those of different abilities, ages, genders, and socio-cultural and linguistic backgrounds to use digital devices in the classroom by coordinating student group work where not all students have access to a digital device but work collaboratively to achieve learning objectives. The third objectives will be identify appropriate technologies, including mobile devices, and pair with corresponding social arrangements to support learning goals. Identify why challenges to ensuring access to technology are affected by factors such as gender and ability. By coordinating students and technology to support learning outside of the classroom or school, such as in the community, homework activities, or online learning environments. The fourth objectives will be monitor and protect hardware and software in the school environment by installing and update antivirus software and accessibility features, audit and track computer equipment, and monitor the security of classrooms, laboratories, and other places where computer equipment is stored. The last aspects will be teacher professional learning. In this aspect, the teacher should be able to develop professionally by acquiring ICT skills to improve productivity by using digital tools to save time and ease administrative tasks such as reporting, record keeping, and timetabling. The next objectives will be developed professionally within subject areas by using ICT to acquire subject resources and discover new teaching strategies. This The activities of this point will be use ICT to identify up-to-date teaching and learning resources, and so on. And teachers should be able to identify and manage internet conduct and safety issues. The teachers can discuss and develop appropriate strategies to deal with cyberbullying, ensure appropriate behavior and actions when interacting with other online, and so on. And the fourth objectives will be model the principles of digital citizenship. The activities that suitable is the model suitable practice when online, particularly in the areas of communication, etiquette, observing the law, protection of self and students, ensuring health and wellness, and observing rights and responsibilities. The next objectives will be analyze and evaluate digital teaching resources. By evaluating the suitability of digital teaching and learning resources, particularly in terms of authority, purpose, coverage, currency, objectiveness, and accuracy, make use of OER and social networks to find resources. Now, we move on to the second level, which is knowledge deepening. In this level, the teachers acquire ICT competencies that enable them to facilitate learning environments that are student-centered, collaborative, and cooperative in nature. There are 6 teacher competencies of this level, which are design, modify, and implement classroom practices that support institutional and or national policies, international commitments, and social priorities. The second one is integrate ICT across subject content, teaching and assessment processes, and grade levels, and create a conducive ICT enhanced learning environment where students supported by ICT demonstrate mastery of curriculum standards. The third one is design ICT supported project-based learning activities. Use ICT to facilitate students to create, implement, and monitor project plans and solve complex problems. The fourth is blend varied digital tools and resources to create an integrated digital learning environment to support students' higher order thinking and problem solving skills. The next one is to use digital tools flexibly to facilitate collaborative learning, manage students and other learning partners, and administer the learning process. And the last one is can use technology to interact with professional networks to support their own professional development. Now we move on to the table. The first aspect, understanding ICT in education. The objective of this aspect, the teacher should be able to apply principles of ICT in education as expressed in policy in their own teaching, and able to analyze what issues arise in implementing these principles and how these issues can be addressed. By considering what issues arise when attempting to implement national ICT in education policy principles in a school setting, identify potential solutions to barriers. Now we move on to the next aspect, which is curriculum and assessment. These aspects objectives, the teacher should be able to use ICT appropriately to achieve curriculum standards by selecting and applying appropriate digital tools to support curriculum standards, such as using a word processor's grammar checker to encourage student reflection on language construction, accessibility checkers and translation tools, and using animated or AR simulations in science to encourage student manipulation of variables to appreciate impact. The next, the next objectives will be develop and applying knowledge and performance-based rubrics to assess students' understanding of subject matter concepts, skills, and processes by using a word processor, spreadsheet, or online rubric tool. Design and create a rubric that provides guidance in assessing student responses across at least 4 levels of sophistication. The next objectives will be harness ICT to support alternative assessment strategies, including portfolios, graphic organizers, review, and reflection tools and peer assessment. By designing and create an assessment strategy that uses alternative assessment methods in addition to tests and examinations and exploits digital tools and platforms, for example, e-portfolio storage and peer assessment platforms and learning styles. The next one is adapt OER to support local context and curriculum standards by searching on the internet for OER, analyze the suitability of the resources for new contexts by applying quality criteria and adapt them to the support learning. Now we move on to the third aspect, which is pedagogy. In this aspect, the goals for teacher training is complex problem solving. In collaborative, project-based learning, students explore a subject deeply and bring their knowledge to bear on complex, everyday questions, issues, and problems. The objectives of this aspect, the teacher should be able to describe how ICT can support project-based learning by describing how different technologies appropriate for different grades and subjects that can support project-based learning tasks such as student research, group communication, and presentation of findings. The next objectives will be identify a real-world problem to support project-based learning by discussing characteristics of authentic problems that incorporate key concepts, examine examples of such problems, and have students generate examples such as the need to improve crop productivity, to market a product, or to ensure gender equality in programs. The third objectives will be identify and evaluate resources that support project-based learning by analyzing online materials to identify key features of the materials that support deep understanding. The next objectives will be designing learning activities to engage students in reasoning with collaborating on and solving real-world problems by designing student activities that allow students to collaborate to identify solutions to a real-world problem. The fifth objectives will be structured lesson plans and learning activities that describe project-based learning by synthesizing project-based learning ideas into a lesson plan, by identifying how the lesson will be launched, how students will initially be confronted with the problem, how they will assess resources, how they will engage with activities, what the final output will be, and how students will be assessed. The last objectives of this aspect will be implement collaborative project-based lesson plans and provide guidance to students towards the successful completion of their projects. By implementing and facilitating a problem-based learning initiative where the teacher supports and guides student-centered learning, taking into account considerations of different abilities, ages, genders, and sociocultural and linguistic background. The fourth aspect, which is application of digital skills, In this aspect, the teacher should be able to operate software packages that are appropriate to subject areas to encourage higher order thinking in students by using specialized packages that are appropriate to the subject matter and that support visualization, data analysis, role play, and simulations. The second objectives will be evaluate the accuracy and usefulness of web resources and web-based tools in support of subject areas by evaluating the suitability of digital teaching and learning resources. The third objectives will be use authoritating tools to design curriculum materials by teaching and learning resources using software ranging from popular productivity suite programs, suite programs to specialized web applications. The fourth one is to use school management software by capturing marks, generating reports, and keeping the attendance records using school or project management software. The next one will be use digital communication tools to support student collaboration within and beyond the classroom by using technology to interact with students when not in the classroom. The six objectives will be use interlink digital devices to establish a network comprising students and the teacher, allowing them to share digital resources and work collaboratively on lesson activities. By using interactive whiteboards that share their content and resources with student devices and allow students to volunteer information back to the whiteboard. The last objective of this aspect will be source and evaluate digital tools to support students with disabilities and social linguistic minorities and ensure gender equality in the delivery of education by identifying and use technology tools that can support students with disabilities. This includes assistive technology such as text-to-speech, utilities, open source accessibility options, and vibrating and flashing alerts. Now we move on to the fifth aspect of knowledge deepening, which is organization and administration. In this aspect, the teacher should be able to assess, evaluate, and disseminate digital resources to support student-centered learning activities and social interactions by organizing technology so that it can best support student needs, including those with different abilities, ages, genders, and sociocultural and linguistic backgrounds when they are working on activities that require them to research, debate, collaborate, and create. Now we move on to the next objective of this aspect, which is manage student project-based learning activities in a technology-enhanced environment by organizing technology to support collaborative student activities that also provide evidence of engagement. The next objectives will be assess, evaluate, organize, and disseminate digital resources to support students with disabilities by determining how to organize assistive technologies and tools in different learning environments so that students with disabilities will have access to them. By now we move on to the next objectives. The teacher should be able to devise an ICT integration strategy for their subject or department by reflecting and creating a vision of strategy for how technology might be better used for the subject or department or grade. Now, we move on to the next objectives, which is set up digital communication mechanisms so that the school can disseminate information to the wider school community. The example of activities of this aspect will be canvass the wider school community to determine Which digital tools are popular? Communication tools could include bulk texting, group emails, and the use of social media. It can also by creating and maintaining such a channel. Now, the last aspect of this knowledge deepening will be teacher professional learning. This aspect will be, I mean, the objectives of this aspect will be use ICT networks to access and share resources that support professional development goals by searching for and engage with dedicated national, regional, and global teacher professional development networks that can connect teachers and encourage sharing of expertise and resources. The next objectives will be use ICT networks to assess external experts and learning communities to support professional development goals. By developing a personal learning network that includes following education experts on popular social networks, as well as organizing a network of local teachers who share interests. The last objectives in this aspect will be use professional networks to access, analyze, and evaluate professional learning opportunities by searching for and participating in online training courses and communities that offer professional development opportunities and others. Now, we move on to the third levels, which is knowledge creation. This level is where teachers acquire competencies that encourage them to model good practice and set up learning environments that encourage students to create the kind of new knowledge required for more harmonious, fulfilling, and prosperous societies. The teachers who have mastered the competencies of this knowledge creation level can first critique institutional and national education policies alike, suggest revisions, design improvements, and speculate on the impact of these changes, determine how best to incorporate student-centered and collaborative learning to ensure mastery of multidisciplinary curriculum standards, and while determining learning parameters, encourage students' self-management in student-centered and collaborative learning. The fourth is design knowledge communities and use digital tools to support pervasive learning. The fifth is play a leadership role in devising a technology strategy for their school to turn it into a learning organization. And the last one is the teacher can continually develop, experiment, coach, innovate, and share best practice to determine how the school can best be served by technology. Now we move on to the table. The first objectives of the understanding ICT and education policy will be design, implement, and modify school-level education reform programs. By the activities that can be done by the teachers is, in collaboration with other staff members, design and implement a series of initiatives designed to bring the school in line with the national vision as articulated in ICT and education policies. The next objectives will be reflect on implications of reform policies and the potential impact of these by reflecting and articulating in writing what needs to change in order for ICT and education policy directives to be carried out. What needs to happen to ensure compliance? What are the implications of doing this at school and national levels? The next objectives will be suggest improvements to existing national education reform policies by critique national ICT and education policies and draft recommendations on how components of these might be updated and improved to fully exploit new developments in the area of ICT and education. Now we move on to the next aspect, which is curriculum and assessment. In this aspect, the teacher should be able to analyze the curriculum standards to identify opportunities where students can master knowledge, society skills, and complex cognitive skills, taking into account learning styles, abilities, and social linguistic skills. By analyzing the curriculum of allied subjects and determine which standards best support students, problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, information management, and creativity, and how they could combine across subjects. The next objectives will be guide students to make sound ICT choices and acquire the appropriate skills to search for, manage, analyze, evaluate, and use information relevant to the curriculum. By ensuring students have media and information literacy skills and appropriate digital tools to process information to support study across subjects. The third objectives will be the teacher should be able to guide students to make appropriate ICT choices to achieve curriculum standards that support reasoning, planning, reflection, and knowledge building by analyzing the curriculum of allied subjects and determine which standards best support student reasoning, planning, reflection, and knowledge building. We move on to the next objectives. The teacher should be able to guide students to use ICT to achieve curriculum statements that support the development of communication and collaboration skills by analyzing the curriculum of allied subjects and determine which standards best support student communication and collaboration. The next objectives will be the teacher should be able to help students develop assessment strategies to test their own understanding of key subject matter and ICT skills, including peer assessment. By devising a strategy to encourage students to see the benefits of formative assessment, introduce the journal or blog as such as reflective device, and encourage students to probe and comment on one another's entries. Now we move on to the third aspect, which is pedagogy. The first objectives will be the teacher should be able to explicitly model their own reasoning, problem solving, and knowledge creation while teaching students. The example of the activities of these objectives will be ask students to emulate thoughtfulness, curiosity, creativity, good interpersonal skills, and self-regulation when coordinating students involved in collaborative group work. The second objectives will be design online materials and activities that engage students in collaborative problem-solving research by devising a set of activities that task students to work together to produce a digital product or artifact or develop a virtual environment. The third objectives will be help students design project plans and activities that engage them in collaborative problem-solving research, or artistic creation. By planning a lesson prior to a big project to provide students with organizational skills, and so on. The next objectives will be helping the students to create digital media resources that support their learning and interaction with other audiences by identifying and alert students to media tools that might prove useful for their projects, considering mobile apps to edit photographs and video, graphic packages that support the design of infographics, website builders, and alternative publishing options to reach a wide audience. The next objectives will be help students reflect on their own learning by devising a set of milestone activities within a project that encourage students to reflect on their learning processes. Now we move on to the fourth aspect, which is application of digital skills. The objectives of this aspect will be creating an online learning environment to support pervasive learning by assembling and integrating a set of technologies to support student learning that can function outside the classroom. The next objectives will be use digital tools to support online collaboration between students and members of the knowledge community by identifying and setting up digital tools that encourage collaboration, considering incorporating online word processor, interactive boards and live video feeds, and presentation packages and spreadsheets that allow multiple developers to work on the same document, or find a free wiki platform that allows multiple users to create websites. The next objectives, the teacher should be able to use digital tools to track and evaluate student contributions to learning in the knowledge community by identifying and using online tools to monitor student contributions to learning. Consider using platforms that offer AI-enabled diagnostic tools such as an LMS to provide statistic measuring student engagement. The next objectives will be encouraging students to develop their own digital tools to support learning by encouraging students developers to create their own hardware and software. Considering using available hardware and software programs to encourage students to code new software. The last but not least aspect, organization and administration in this knowledge creation. These objectives of this aspect will be organized digital knowledge building environments to enhance teaching and learning by experimenting with and evaluating different knowledge building technology options and determine the implications for the school in adopting each. The next one is identify and set up digital planning tools to support organization and administration of schools by evaluating school management software, determining the implications for the school and thus the suitability in terms of cost, staff development, and infrastructure needs. The third objectives will be devise a strategy to implement a school-wide technology integration plan by leading or advising management in the development of a strategy managed school of ICT. Now we move on to the next objectives. The teacher should be able to foster a reciprocal flow of information between all school stakeholders via school communications channels by evaluating school communication channels between stakeholders and enhance the mechanism to ensure information flows both to and from the school. The last aspect will be teacher professional learning. In this aspect, the objectives will be teachers should be able to support the process of implementing a vision of what their school might be like when ICT is implemented in the curriculum and classroom practices by identifying and support the implementation of the school ICT strategy. The second objectives will be foster innovation by promoting continuous learning among colleges by devising and over a series of professional development initiatives aimed at supporting colleagues in the acquisition of skills to exploit technology with the aim of enhancing teaching and learning. The third objectives will be continually evaluate and reflect on professional practice to promote innovation and improvement by organizing staff development initiatives where colleagues present innovative teaching strategies they either intend to implement or have implemented and encourage discussion and reflection. The fourth objectives will be share and discuss best practices in teaching via professional communities The example of these activities will be showcase innovative school practice to groups outside the school through online professional groups or through national teacher competitions. The fifth objectives, license and distribute their original teaching resources as OER by sharing exemplary teaching and learning resources such as lesson plans, worksheets, lab notes, and tests with the wider education community by releasing these resources with an open license. I think that's all from me about the ICT CFT version 3. Thank you very much.